Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
So this is Week 8 of the 2018 NFL season, and MJ, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels like 8 weeks since the last time the Cardinals played a ball game, considering everything that has happened since a week ago Thursday, both on and off the field.
Yeah, there's been no less of storylines, and that's what happens when you get off to a 1-6 start. I started last Thursday when they lost to the Broncos. The following morning, they decided to move on from Mike McCoy, promote Byron Leftwich. They had a few days off, bonus practice on Monday, and I am fired up for a football Friday, a Fitz Friday, and I felt the energy on the practice field today, and people are going to say, well, what's that mean? Well, it means that they're not pointing the finger, they're not going through the motions, and this team has a lot of football still to be played, a lot of evaluation going on, and this is a very winnable game. It'd be nice to win a division game at home.
You watch them practice the 20 minutes that we're allowed to every single time that there is practice, and you go in that locker room, it does not feel like this is a 1-6 football team. They're very upbeat. You wouldn't know it if they were 6-1. It just seems they've been steady throughout this entire season.
Yeah, and I don't want the listeners and viewers to get it twisted. I mean, there are hard times going on right now. Everyone's under evaluation. You know, when you look at the roster, obviously, you know, Steve Keim and the scouts got to go out and find personnel that's going to fit the scheme. But even Steve Wilkes today was running with some of the drills in the defensive backs, and then you could see him looking over at the quarterback. So, you know, so there's some head coaches that stand at midfield. Some will engage maybe with their personality on one side of the ball, but Wilkes he's in 1 minute he's over there with the defensive lineman watching drills, making sure technique and they're using their hands and their eyes in the right place. He was jumping in the defensive backs drill today, goes over and sees the quarterback, sees the running backs hitting the sled. So he's very active as a head coach, not just a guy that's standing there and going to go watch the film and break the players down. He gets in your face, he'll encourage you, or he'll correct you if you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, he's always been very active since he first arrived here with the Arizona Cardinals. As you mentioned, MJ, it is a Football Friday. Let's take off on this Friday, tell you what's ahead on the show this afternoon, and we'll hear from Byron Leftwich. What are his plans for the offense starting Sunday against San Francisco? We'll go to the Bay Area and get a scouting report on the 49ers, and of course your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, and that's with the number 2 to get involved in the show here on this afternoon. It's certainly been a busy time for the Cardinals in the last week and a half or so. The news on this Friday, though, centers on the injury report, and 2 players have already been ruled out for Sunday's contest. Safety Trey Boston, he's still dealing with shoulder and ribs, and then backup offensive lineman Jeremy Vunovich has a hamstring issue that will keep him off the field. And the key here, though, is Boston missing a second straight game. Coach Steve Wilkes would not commit to Rudy Ford as Boston's replacement. It was Ford who was on the field on Thursday, and I know you're thinking and pointing to another player that potentially could be back there playing free safety.
Yeah, and Rudy Ford's a really good special teams player. He's just a young player, still learning the grasp of the position. So, I mean, he was inconsistent, and you can't afford that, giving up those ton of points like they did in the previous game against the Broncos. So I think Ben Wickery, not only can he play on the outside corner, he can also play in the slot, but he can also play in the front 7. So I would think he's going to be the replacement for Trey Boston. You know, Boston looks like he's getting healthy. He's obviously been on the practice field, you know, not doing anything but for team support. He's getting rehab, and I think this is a smart decision by the organization. Now, clearly, if the trainer, Tom Reed, doesn't clear him, then it's not an option for the staff or the front office to make that decision. So hold him out another week and then make sure he comes back and plays 8 games in a row. And then we'll see if the Cardinals ID him as a guy that could be a free agent next year if they want to bring him back, because I think he brings a lot of toughness to this defense and smarts considering he's played for Wilkes in the past.
You sit him this week. You've got the bye week before you have to go to Kansas City in Week 9. Elsewhere on the injury report, Phil Dawson is a game day decision. According to Coach Wilkes, he hurt his hip in practice on Thursday. So in coach's words, a secondary plan, and that is Matt McCrane is back with the team, signed to the practice squad. He was with the Cardinals, released after the preseason, kicked very, very well for the Cardinals while he was here. But once he was released, MJ, he was with the Oakland Raiders, missed 4 of 9 field goal attempts, made all 5 of his extra point attempts. He got released on Tuesday. There's a necessity here potentially for him to be active on game day.
Well, and he also had a game-winning kick for their lone victory this year. So a little bit of good and bad. And I think that was the biggest question coming out of camp. You have a veteran guy. Now, he struggled in the first half of the season. He improved in the second half. And I thought the Cardinals would be in closer games. Now, we can go back to the Bears game and the Seahawks game. They lost by a total of 5 points, but that's the NFL. And he's familiar with Jeff Rodgers, the special teams coach, so he knows some of the assignments. And you're thinking he's a kicker. What else is he going to do? Well, he would also be kicking your extra points, and you said he's been perfect there. He's got to make sure with the kickoff, with the coverages. So there's a little bit more that goes into it. And I was told that Zane Gonzalez, former Sun Devil, was in town. His family still lives here. He's been rehabbing in Texas. That based on the 2 workouts, McCrane had a better workout than Zane Gonzalez. So I think he's still on the radar down the road. It wouldn't surprise me if McCrane is on the practice squad for the remainder of the season, and then the Cardinals could sign him to a futures contract, and he could be your kicker, at least going into camp. You want to bring in 2 just so one guy's not doing all the work. So curious to see if Dawson's able to go, but they're comfortable with McCrane. But again, when you get into these pressure kicks, there's nothing like it. Don't give me preseason and don't give me college football.
So we'll keep an eye on Dawson. The other player we're keeping an eye on is defensive tackle Corey Peters. Did not practice on Friday, a game day decision dealing with an ankle injury. He did tell Darren Urban of azcardinals.com that he is, quote, hopeful he'll be able to play on Sunday. And that is one guy you don't want to miss, especially this week against the San Francisco 49ers, the second-best rushing team in the league. We know what they did against the Cardinals in the first meeting. For me, he has to play, and I'll even if he's 50-50 because he, just based off of his football IQ, can put himself in a good position to make a tackle or to tackle the ball carrier after a minimal gain.
Yeah, the only thing is, though, if he gets out there and he can't finish, then I wouldn't say wasted a roster spot.
Down a guy, yes.
So maybe it's on a pitch count, but let's take the same theory with Boston. Maybe you hold him out an extra week so he gets 2 weeks to really heal, and then he has to play 8 games in the second half of the season. So obviously they have the information when it comes to rehab. They get information from the trainer. They'll make the decision likely Saturday, but I got to anticipate he's going to go out there and work out. But again, even a part-time role, he can definitely help these guys. Now that means that guys like Robert Kemdichi, Olsen Pierre, and then Rodney Gunter, and maybe we could see Benson Mayowa,
Zach Moore, perhaps sliding
inside because they really like their outside backers. When I say defensive ends, I guess, between Jones, Golden, Benson Mayowa, and Hassan Reddick, and then you want to get a good rotation in the interior because that's where it really starts. I know people criticize the Cardinals for rushing up the middle. That's where your strength was supposed to be, the 2 guards and center. And a lot of other teams do it very similar. Some run more to the outside, so I know it's frustrating on game day for a lot of Cardinal fans why they continue to run up the middle. And that's why you got to have Corey Peters in there for the opponent because you can stop the run at the point of attack.
Yeah, defending the run for Coach Wilkes comes down to those guys in the interior on that defensive line.
I feel very confident. Hopefully Corey can play, but if he doesn't, I feel confident in other guys that we have in there. And, yes, Al is correct. You know, it's all about trying to create some penetration up front to try to disrupt their run game.
And the reference there to Al is defensive coordinator Al Holcomb, who, when he addressed the media on Thursday, said the 49ers, quote, perfected, close quote, the zone blocking screen. And, you know, the 49ers had 147 rushing yards in that first meeting, and they also had several throws, small throws to the fullback, to the tight end screens, and it just really confused the Cardinals, especially early on in that ball game. And that's why you really have to have, I think, Corey Peters be available, but just anyone who is on that front 7 be sound fundamentally and then know what their assignment is on Sunday.
What I remember from that game also missed tackles.
Correct.
So that's going to add to the yards after catch. So that goes to the yak. I mean, I was told they worked on the fullback and the tight end screen. Now, again, easier in practice, not
Correct.
going full speed. We know how good the Niners tight end is and George Kittle. He's probably one of the better tight ends in the NFC. We know we got Gronk and Travis Kelce in the AFC, but he's putting up numbers. He leads the NFC in yards and yards after catch. So make sure you don't arm tackle him. But tackling is an issue. Now, the good news is they're able to force 5 turnovers in that game, and we're going to get into what they should do to C.J. Beathard because he does not handle pressure very well.
And with the 49ers, Matt Breida is still not quite 100%.
Has that guy ever been 100% this year?
No, he certainly looked very, very good in that first quarter when he was at least somewhat available in that game and then got hurt.
You could see when Jarrett McKinnon went down, this is an opportunity. And I thought Alfred Morris actually hurt the Cardinals too. Now they got another guy that they can rotate in there. So when you look at that, it just seems like you got to take advantage of your opportunity, especially when they went out and spent big money on McKinnon.
For more on the 49ers, let's hear from head coach Steve Wilks breaking it down here on Sunday.
Oh, I think those guys definitely improved the last couple of weeks. You go back and really watch the Green Bay game. You know, in my opinion, they should have won that game. Did some great things there. So, again, it's not a lot that you can get from a standpoint. You understand certain personnel, you understand what they're trying to do, but they're going to change a little bit just like we are.
You know, it was just 3 weeks ago that these two teams met. It was October 7th. You heard Coach Wilks reference the Green Bay game. That was in Green Bay, and the 49ers were ahead in the fourth quarter. Aaron Rodgers comes storming back in. The Packers win 33-30, but the 49ers last week notwithstanding because they got blitzed by the Rams, they've looked pretty good this season.
The one thing you look at is they can score about 25 to 28 points per game. I mean, they're somewhere in the middle there, so they can score. Now, again, turnovers have been an issue when it comes to the quarterback, C.J. Beathard, whether it's interceptions or fumbles. So that's something the Cardinals got to be aware of, and we know that Chandler Jones kind of owned Joe Staley last game. Marcus Golden's making strides, so maybe he gets a little bit of matchup with Mike McClinchy, who's really played well as a first-round pick out of Notre Dame. So it'd be interesting to see. But we all know at the end of the day, it's going to come down to protection, and you have to put pressure on the quarterback if you want to win this game.
Let me ask you this: rematches. Does it matter that it's happening so soon after the first game? And then is there you always hear, well, the team that lost has the advantage in the rematch, and I would go, I agree with that, but for this one, I would even go, well, if you looked at how well the 49ers played and how badly the Cardinals played, specifically on offense, I don't know really who has an advantage, or you look back and say, this is what we did well, this is what we did wrong, let's correct it, but this is unusual to play twice within a month.
Yeah, and obviously you got to play 6. Now the Cardinals won't play the Rams until Week 16, and they'll get them at home, and then they got to go to Seattle in Week 17. So when I say this, you're going to go, well, they haven't won a home game under Steve Wilks. But I like the fact that they were able to go on the road with a young quarterback, get the victory there, even though the defense kind of carried the water. This is a home game. And we're not going to see Broncos fans. We're not going to see Seahawks fans. It's going to be a Cardinal crowd. And it should be a good afternoon. So I think because you're so familiar with each other, you go back and look at tendencies. They haven't changed the coordinator on offense or defense. So over the last 2 years, it's pretty much the same. Now, they're going to put in new wrinkles. I'm much more confident going into this game, Craig, because Byron Leftwich. We're going to see a different offensive line blocking schemes now. Again, you got to win those matchups. Hopefully the wide receivers, we know Kevin Carver's been in their ear. He's a guy that can help Byron Leftwich on game day, Kirby Wilson. So I'm more confident going into this game than I was the previous game.
We'll talk about Byron Leftwich, but first let's hear from rookie quarterback Josh Rosen. This is his first opportunity, first challenge in the NFL, and that is facing a team twice in the same season.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a little frustrating. I didn't play great against them, so I have to keep watching my own film and see me miss guys. But I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit. I think that's something new in the NFL compared to college, as you're seeing. I mean, in college you play a team every year, but they lose a quarter of their team. So I think in the NFL, it's cool that you get to play your own division twice. And whether you win or lose, it poses its own set of challenges moving forwards. And I think it's a little bit unique that we were playing them so close to the last time we played them. But, I mean, they have a couple wrinkles in there.
Now, Rosen in that first meeting.
Was he gargling there? Sorry for the audio.
10 of 25 for $170 and a touchdown, which was that 75-yard score to Christian Kirk on the very first offensive play of the ball game. And he recognizes he needs to play better. And as you mentioned, it's a new offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, who addressed the media on Thursday, and he spoke eloquently, smiled, laughed, joked around, and he seemed very comfortable in answering the questions. And then obviously, with not divulging too much, but that's the big question. This offense needs to be tweaked. But how much of a tweak, just how much is going to be changed? Well,
and I think Arians has said this throughout the course of the week, different interviews, that there's no quick fix here. This is a work in progress. Now, they've had a couple of days to figure it out. They'll be able to put more in as we get into the second half of the season. So from that standpoint, you would think that Leftwich is going to utilize David Johnson. That's one of the first things I'm going to look for. Okay, where's he lined up? What kind of routes is he running? And then that's going to open things up for Larry Fitzgerald. So that's why I'm confident. I'm not saying they're going to go out there and blow them up by 3 touchdowns. Even if they win it with a field goal, I'm fine with that.
Just get a win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just whatever you got to do, just scratch and claw, do your job, and we'll see if they get the win. But I'm more confident in Leftwich because, first of all, he talked for 16 minutes. That won't be the case because that was the first time we got a chance to talk to him probably since training camp. He was impressive. He was engaging, and he commanded the interview process. In other words, he was comfortable up there, so he passed the eye test. I know he doesn't get judged on press conferences, and I couldn't care less if he won the press conference. He's got respect in the room, and that's the most important thing.
Well, let's hear from Leftwich about the offense under his direction and what, if any, influence former head coach Bruce Arians might have with his play calling.
I mean, it's tough to change a lot in a week, but there's things that we can do, and we're just going to – it's not really about doing a bunch of different stuff. It's about getting these guys – and it can't be about – it's about Josh, it's about the growth of Josh, but it's also about the other 10 guys also. We just got to play better, and we've got to practice better, and we're trying to do that. We had 2 really good days of practice, and it's all you can ask from the guys is just keep working, and just get better one day at a time. To me right now, it's not about plays. I mean, we're going to have some different things, I'm quite sure, just because I'm a different human being than Mike. But from a scheme standpoint, I'm not going to put this kid in something brand new. You can't learn it in a week. This is kind of what we're talking about. I don't want to rush this thing. I don't want to put this kid in no bad situations. But at the same time, I want to put him in successful situations so we can have a chance every week to win a football game.
I feel like we got to say this every week. He's only 21 years old.
Josh Rosen, yeah.
Josh Rosen. Yeah, I mean, and I think he can relate to Leftwich, and I think the reason why they decided to go this route, because there's a couple guys on the staff that have been previous play callers. Kirby Wilson, he was the passing game coordinator and the running game coordinator when Gruden won the Super Bowl with the Bucs. And then you had Jason Michael, who spent some time in Tennessee. So they have experience. But I think when you look at the brains of the offense when it comes to coaching, I put Kirby up there, and then I put Kevin Garver, who I think is a guy that can be a coordinator in the future. But to me, that's the guys that Byron's going to lean on. But again, Josh Rosen is only 21 years old, and I really think you need 16 games. We'll have a better understanding when we get through the remainder of the season if he can stay healthy, or we can judge him on 13 games. And then they're going to bring in more talent, more protection up front. But I think you need 16 games to really tell about a young man's future.
Well, what you could tell about Leftwich and how much respect and how much love he has for Josh Rosen during those 16 minutes that he addressed the media on Thursday. He wants Rosen to be successful, not just this season, but seasons to come, have a long NFL career. And that was what struck me, is he will do everything in his power to make sure Rosen has a great career, not a good career, but a great career in the NFL.
And that means not putting too much on his plate and protecting him. because Josh is going to sit in the pocket and try to make the throws. Now, I think the game is obviously sped up for him now that he's a starter. He's had a couple games under his belt. You can't lock on receivers, and I thought he did that in the previous week, maybe because of Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, and they were getting pressure, and you're losing, so you're pressing a little bit. But if he goes through his progressions and he has protection, he'll make the throws. And again, I'm really excited to see David's role and Larry Fitzgerald.
Well, the relationship between Leftwich and Rosen goes all the way back to when Rosen was drafted. Leftwich, the quarterback's coach, so they certainly have a history, and maybe not a long history, but Leftwich is certainly looking forward to working extensively with Rosen.
When he got his first start, I remember telling him I got my first start on my 4th game. So the pattern has almost been exactly as it was for me. So I don't know how much that'll help me, but it's just the position. It's the toughest thing in sports. It's not a thing where you can snap your finger and just automatically get it. We got to rep it. We got to rep it. We got to get them in some tough situations. We understand that some things may not go well all the time, as it does with all rookie quarterbacks, but what we got to understand, we just got to learn from it and continue getting better. But I really like this kid. I think this kid can really play football. I'm not changing this thing up. I'm not going to put this kid in no situation where he's out there and don't have an understanding of what he's doing. I'm just trying to give him a better understanding of what he's doing, just put him in better positions so he can have a lot of success in this league. And the things that I'm trying to put in him, you guys may not see on a day-to-day basis, because this thing's about longevity. I want this kid to play 15 years in this league, so I'm trying to install in him now the things he's going to need to do that. And that's my mindset, just to being in that situation. That's all you can do. You can help a kid out by really teaching them how to do things the right way. This kid is really 21 going on like 36. You guys talk to him. I mean, this is a smart kid. This is a well-informed individual. He loves the game of football. You love just talking to the kid. I love his perspective. I never let him hold back. I want to know everything he say. I teaches him there's no dumb questions, even when I don't understand the question. There's no dumb questions, though. He makes me young. I mean, this kid's 21. I'm 38. That's a big difference. You know, it's a big difference, and I didn't realize it. I got a little niece, 23, and sometimes just talking to Josh is almost like, I mean, I just love it, man. Just being around him, the energy he gives me, the energy he brings for the team, it's just been fun.
How many times did he mention him as a kid?
Yes.
I mean, it's not like he's, 38?
I think he's 38 years old.
Okay. I mean, eventually he's going to be a young man.
Well, he acts much older than
just listen to him talk.
Age, yes, and he can certainly carry on a conversation about a number of different subjects. But this offense is certainly going to center on the quarterback, but you also want to see David Johnson more involved, in which case Leftwich said, well, that's easier said than done. And if the entire offense is successful, that's the blocking, that's the receivers, that's the tight ends, then everyone will have their success. And that Arians influence, well, are we going to see more down the field passes? Perhaps. The one thing, though, you talk with different players, and even DJ Humphries on the Big Red Rage last night said he was very intrigued by what's to come on Sunday. Didn't want to go into details, and no one is, and no one should, because you don't want to give away too much. But there is a renewed sense of urgency that this offense might be able to do what we all anticipated it should have done at the start of the season. Now we're just waiting until week 8.
Yes, but you got to let the offense breathe a little bit.
Correct.
Just come in there, run the offense. We talk about third down so much. How about getting productive yards on first and second down so you're not facing third and long where you can move the chains? You get in the red zone, you got to score touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those scenarios. I think I just don't want people to go into the game expecting too much.
Well, that first drive, 15 plays or 4 plays, 75 yards, and you score a touchdown. No, just even if it's a sustained drive and you flip field position, that would be okay.
And for any young quarterback, it's okay to punt. I mean, you put your defense
and you got a very good one.
And he's probably been the MVP of the team, Andy Lee. I mean, he's been money when it comes to now. You know, sometimes you may look at one kick that he's kicking it a lot higher because he's hoping the coverage unit can get down and they can pin it within the 5-yard line. But he's very accurate when it comes to pinning inside the 15 or 20-yard line. So, yeah, it's okay to punt in this league, guys. I think they get, you get to the fourth quarter, you're pressing a little bit more. Those first 3 quarters, let the game come to you, but let's see some rhythm in this offense.
We'll see what the offense has in store on Sunday. Cardinals and 49ers, Week 8 from State Farm Stadium. 1:25 is the kickoff. 8:30, the pregame coverage begins on the Arizona Cardinals radio network. And if you want to know where to watch, listen, and follow the game, just go to azcardinals.com/game central. Cards Cover 2 coming to you on a Friday afternoon here from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center. Still to come, we'll head and speak to Joe Fann, 49ers reporter for 49ers.com, plus your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2. That's hashtag CardsCover2. It is, speaking of hashtags, a Fitz Friday. Larry Fitzgerald meets the media on Thursdays, and, well, as you would expect, a lot of questions concerning the new offensive coordinator.
Had a good weekend off, and try to put that game behind us, on Thursday, and just get ready for this next one. It was difficult to make any mass changes, right in the middle of the season. We're going to do a lot of the same things we've done, just a few different adjustments, some wrinkles. I think his personality will be kind of sprinkled in, week by week, and things will evolve, but you can't just say, hey, look, we're going to run these new 50 play. That's not fair to Josh. It's not fair to everybody. So I think week by week, we'll kind of get a little bit more personality. I think just having a coach that has played, understand what the pressure is, understand what it's like to have the rush bearing down. Somebody who can talk to you, and they're not just talking to you from watching tape or breaking down tape. They're talking to you from experience, and that's a lot different. Well, I mean, just over the years, I love B, man. He's born in Pittsburgh. He played at a high level when he was in Jacksonville. I mean, so he's a guy who's got a great experience, and the things that he's done, have been proven and tested. So, we just got to get on board and get on this page and make sure we're able to do what he's asking us to do. I think it's important, for Josh to have that familiarity, especially from a coach, who's done the same things that he's trying to accomplish and win and be on a championship team. And, Byron's been, I think, a great mentor for him. I think he'll continue to be one for him, because he's had the same experiences. And, Josh is, he's a rookie. He's going to take some lumps. That's no rookie has ever come in the league and not taken any lumps. It's just part of the deal. I don't view myself as a 1-6 guy. I don't view my team as a 1-6 team. But everybody else knows that you're 1-6. It's different. It's like when you put on a couple extra pounds and your lady or your wife says, "Babe, that shirt's a little tight on you." You say, "No, the shirt actually looks good." You're the last person to really realize that shirt's probably a little tight on you. I think this the same way. You don't view yourself as that.
By the way, great analogy by Fitz. Something, though, that you've never had an issue with, MJ, because nothing ever looks too tight on you.
Yeah, well, I used to have bigger shirts, and now they got me down to these large shirts. So it's medium, yeah. So we've made progress.
Always got to make sure
we're wearing
yeah, I know.
the same
We
shirt
called
today.
each other and made sure that we had the proper attire here on this.
You don't want to be
Friday.
wearing white. When you can wear red. I mean, I like the white shirts. I like all the Cardinals shirts.
Yes, but certainly red looks very, very good on camera as well. By the
Big
way,
Red Friday.
Fitz had 2 catches for 35 yards in the first meeting. He's 135 yards shy of passing Terrell Owens for number 2 on the NFL's all-time list for career receiving yards, and he joked on Thursday that at this rate it might come week 16 or week 17 here this season.
He joked with me he's going to get 200 yards.
On Sunday?
Yeah.
Wow. That would be something.
Well, get to 135.
Yeah, how about you just get to
because then he has a bonus in his contract.
Oh, well, there we go.
135 yards, though. I mean, that would be really nice. That'd be a shot in the arm that the offense has made progress. But, they're going to be without some of their players on defense. Now, again, it all starts with the offensive line, Rosen's decision-making, and then, obviously, Larry and David getting involved. And I think we're going to see some different stuff. And not Bruce Arians, bash and bomb, 10 throws down the field. But I would like to
shots.
Yeah, I would like to see David get 25 to 28 touches. That means maybe 20 carries, and then target him in the passing game 5 to 8. But hey, I'll sign up for anything over 100 yards for Fitz because If he only needs 35 in the next game, that's one throw.
Whatever will get the team with just 1 point better.
All right, over or under
49ers.
135?
Under. I'm sorry. I need to see before I start jumping to large 3-digit performances.
Okay, well, since he told me 200, I'm taking the over.
You're taking the okay. Over of what? 135 or 200?
136 and over.
Okay. All right. By the way, Fitz, the subject of this week's Big Red Vault. We flash back to 2007, Cardinals 49ers, and what is referred to as Hail Larry, as called by Dave Pasch and Ron Wolfley.
And the Cardinals are going to throw it deep. Warner's in the shotgun, 3 receivers right and 1 to the left. Warner back to throw, steps up, running around. Warner rolling left, lets it go, deep middle, into the end zone, knocked up into the air, and it's caught! Larry Fitzgerald, touchdown! You gotta be joking! A walk-off touchdown catch to end the first half!
That's right, Larry. Run to the tunnel, baby, because it don't get any better than that.
By the way, great athleticism by Warner, buying himself more time in the pocket.
Did you see how much protection he had?
Yeah. And apparently Fitz is not on the PAT coverage because he just ran into the locker. And
hey, listen, I will take my chances 100 out of 100 times with Larry Fitzgerald. And you see who's right next to him? Number 81, Anquan Bolden.
By the way, do I need to tell you what happened in the second half?
I know what happened.
Should we tell everyone else?
Sure.
All right. Cardinals ended up losing that ball game in overtime, 37-31, the final. Although
you're a buzzkill.
You just told me to tell him.
Well, I did, but I didn't know you were going to go down that road. But it is part of history, though. But that was a great catch, and like I said, I think Anquan, Larry's obviously bigger, has a bigger catch radius. But Q's tough. He would have got that ball, too.
Fitz had more than 1,400 yards that season in 2007. Cardinals have had their success against the 49ers. They've won 7 in a row, looking for a season series sweep against the 49ers for a 4th straight season coming up on Sunday. And we'll see if Fitz can have even more success against the 49ers. Speaking of which, for more on the 49ers side of things here on a Football Friday, let's get to know your enemy with Joe Fann, Senior Reporter for 49ers.com. Well, statistically speaking, Joe, this was a one-sided affair the first time these two teams met this season, and it was all about the turnovers that the Cardinals forced. But before we get too far into it, just take me back to that first meeting earlier this month and how the 49ers feel about that contest heading into this week's game.
I think it's just a game that they feel they should have won. I mean, you look at the numbers, and outside of that turnover differential, which at the end of the day is all that matters. I mean, you're going to lose to anybody when you lose the turnover battle 5-0. But I think it's just staggering when you look at the team stats, just at the disparity. I mean, 33 first downs to 10 first downs. 10 of 17 on third down to 2 of 12 on third down, 447 total yards to 220 total yards, and you can go on and on. But again, the 5 turnovers, and that's been the bugaboo for this team all season long. A minus 15 turnover differential just hasn't been getting it done.
I heard Coach Shanahan kind of joke earlier this week about maybe perhaps putting footballs in the hands of your skilled players as they walk around the facility or just walk around town, kind of like what we've seen in the movies. But outside of that, just – and I know it's been discussed repeatedly, but how do the 49ers kind of correct that or at least make sure they secure the football?
I mean, it's just one of those things that feels like it should be easier said than done, I guess. I don't think there's like a magic cure, a magic fix. I think there's just an added stress every single week. There's a different coach that talks to the team about, the need to go get the football on defense. I mean, this team hasn't done a good enough job of it. They don't have a takeaway since week 4, only 3 takeaways on the season. And offensively, it's just the ability to secure the football. And there's been fumbles on special teams and fumbles on offense. And, I think, no one is, they're not learning today that, wow, you have to take care of the football in this league. I mean, everyone knows that, but it's just that extra level of focus, and making sure that you're taking care of it. Other than that, I mean, it's awareness on the football field, knowing who's around you. I mean, CJ Beathard has to take better care of the football. He has to have that internal clock in his head, know where the pressure's coming around him, especially with a guy like Chandler Jones and Marcus Golden coming off the edge and looking for him. So I think, if the 49ers, the first and foremost point of emphasis every single week and ongoing is that turnover.
Speaking of C.J. Beathard, he's been in the system for a year and a half now, and clearly, Kyle Shanahan calls a good game. I like what you guys use a lot of motion and moving players around, try to get your playmakers involved. You mentioned the turnovers, 7 interceptions, 7 touchdowns, but the fumbles. I mean, I agree with you. It seems like when you're watching that game, he doesn't deal with pressure very good. Do you see the same thing?
Well, I think in general, it's on everybody, right? I mean, offensive line's got to protect, and you have to have guys who are getting open, right? I mean, so it's on everybody. It's not like, I don't know, there haven't been times where he's just staring down open receivers and isn't throwing the football, right? He's trying to hang in, and wait for someone to break open. But when, in reality, is you can't take those negative plays, so you throw it away. You find a way to live another down instead of taking those costly sacks, and many of those sacks have turned into turnovers, which gives the defense, all of a sudden they have to defend a short field. So, it's, again, you're right, it's on everybody, but C.J. Beathard has to have that awareness, has to have that internal clock going throughout every single snap on Sunday.
Yeah, we're going through similar things here in Arizona with the rookie quarterback and Josh Rosen. All right, Jarrett McKinnon goes down. Matt Breeder's been dealing with injuries. I mean, they've still been able to run the football. What do you see happening on Sunday?
I think Matt Breida, I would project him to still be in the lineup, but it all depends how he goes throughout practice this week. He's been dinged up with knee injuries, ankle injuries. He got re-aggravated the ankle injury last Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams, but Kyle Shanahan said he was feeling better on Wednesday than he was on Monday and Tuesday. So if he continues to make that progression, I would expect him to be in the lineup. I don't think they're going with the approach of, hey, we just need to shut this guy down and give him a week to rest up. But, expect to see a lot of him. And then last time the Cardinals and 49ers met, there was a lot of Alfred Morris. And it really feels like Raheem Mostert has really earned that number 2 job, that change of pace guy. He played really well on Monday Night Football against the Packers, set career highs with 12 carries for 87 yards, leading the way for the 49ers, but played well again against the Rams. So I would expect that there's going to be a difference that Cardinals fans should expect to see from the 49ers offense is the insertion of Raheem Mostert into the mix.
I'm glad you brought up the last 2 games the 49ers have played as we catch up with Joe Fann here on Cards Cover 2. He works for 49ers.com, and because since that game against the Cardinals in San Francisco, a very winnable game in Green Bay, and I know things got out of control against the Rams, but the record right now, I know it says 1-6, but how confident are the players about how well they performed so far in the last few weeks?
I don't know if it's necessarily confidence, because if you don't win, it's all that matters, right? There's no moral victories, but I think there is a belief that, look, they're truly a couple plays away from being 4-3. I mean, genuinely, the games you should have won against the Chargers in Week 4, the way you dominated that game against the Cardinals outside of that first play of the game from Josh Rosen to Christian Kirk, 75-yard touchdown. Rosen was under 100 yards passing the rest of the way. Should have won that game in their eyes. And then obviously that Monday Night Football game in Green Bay where Aaron Rodgers really stole it from him. And so I think this frustration that comes from losing those close games and not being able to finish again. Yeah, you said the Rams game, the best team in the NFL, that one got away from them. But I think this team knows they're close. The margin between most NFL teams is just so small to where, all it takes is a couple turnovers here and there, and, you're losing games or, that you should be winning, and then, maybe winning games that ultimately you can steal from somebody. So, I think they know that coming up ahead, they've got some winnable games ahead, and that starts on Sunday.
Now you start looking at some of the young guys. Obviously, that's what they're playing for right now. You take a look at Mike McGlinchey on the right side. Looks like he passes the eye test. Talk about some of those young guys they've drafted in the last few years between DeForest Buckner and Solomon Thomas. How much progress have they made?
Yeah, I think there's progress at varying degrees. I think there's been a case of the sophomore slumps a little bit here. Reuben Foster trying to shake off that rust, wasn't around the team due to his legal issues over the offseason. Obviously that's on him. Kyle Shanahan said that yesterday, but he's got to shake that rust off and get back to the level he was last year when he was named the Defensive Rookie of the Month in the month of November. DeForest Buckner has been solid. Looking to continue to see next steps from him. Is he's a consistent pass rusher, but I think he's probably the best player on the defense right now. Then they got guys like a Keller Witherspoon, Solomon Thomas. You want to see them continue to step up. They've had up and down years. In year 2, and a couple guys on offense that have really taken that next step is Matt Breida, a guy that the Cardinals know. He had a great first drive before getting hurt, scoring a touchdown back in Week 5. But then you also have George Kittle, who's really emerged as one of the top tight ends in this league already, just in year 2. An exceptional blocker. There's been clips floating around Twitter of him really pile driving guys into the turf, finishing his blocks, but then also as a receiver has just been fantastic. I mean, through 7 games, he's on pace for 1,200 yards, 32 catches, 527 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's on a Pro Bowl pace right now. So I think he's been the biggest surprise, not really necessarily a surprise, but biggest, bright spot for this 49ers offense and 49ers team in general.
Considering you mentioned they could be 4-3 with C.J. Beathard, hypothetically, what do you think the record would be with Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to play that game, but I would feel confident that it's not 1-6. Put it that way. You never know. But I think it's fair to say it would be, closer to around 500. But can't take away from CJ. He's given this team a chance to win in every game he's played in up until that Rams game. And so I think the expectation is that he'll do the same against the Cardinals on Sunday.
1:25 is the kickoff from State Farm Stadium. Joe, appreciate a couple of minutes, and we'll see you this weekend.
Gentlemen, appreciate it.
By the way, Brandon Natus, Cardinals manager of social media, joining us here in studio. But speaking of the game on Sunday, if you're connected to the stadium Wi-Fi on your phone or watching the game at home from your couch, be sure to check out azcardinals.com/Game Central. Follow the official game blog with live play-by-play updates and commentary from your favorite Cardinals insiders. We'll also have stats, video highlights, and all the pregame and postgame content related to this week's matchup against the 49ers. Again, that's azcardinals.com/Game Central. All right, now, apparently, Brandon did not get the memo because he is not wearing the Cardinals red golf shirt. He's choosing to wear the black, which is okay. You choose to be different. But what's the Bird Gang sounding off on this Football Friday?
I wear whatever not wrinkled in my closet.
I mean, whatever is clean?
Yeah, whatever clean, not wrinkled, that's what I'm just like, oh, that looks good, and got like one eye open. And so, I'll text you guys next week, and we'll maybe coordinate. I don't know if it would be too much of 3 of us.
Well, I think we should all wear 3 different shirts.
I'm fired up on Football Friday. They had candy. Kayleen brings snacks before all the home games.
So you got a sugar rush.
Oh, I'm going to be asleep by 5
even
o'clock.
Higher than he normally is.
All right, fire away then.
So we got first question from Twitter, Cardinals31. We appreciate you always asking questions each show. Top concerns for the Cardinals heading into the game this week?
Stop the run. How do you stop the run? And if it's more than just that, it's the screen game, because the 49ers are going to do it until the Cardinals show that they can stop it. And whatever was successful in that first meeting, I expect more of the same.
Well, he went defense. I'm going to say when it comes to the Cardinals' protection, give Rosen some opportunities. I want to see David Johnson at least 25 to 28 carries. I want to see Larry Fitzgerald involved, Ricky Seals-Jones, Christian Kirk. So, again, I think we need to be patient, considering Josh is only 21 years old. He obviously was able to get a victory against San Francisco, so he goes into this game with some confidence. Now, we don't think the defense, hopefully they do, get 5 turnovers. But if he's going defense, I'm going offense. Offensive line, Rosen, and then obviously David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald.
Now, Craig, you mentioned the run defense. Robert Nkemdiche was benched last game and then going to play this week. Steve Wilkes made sure to bring that up. Is he one of the players that you guys will be watching this week?
If Peters is unable to go, then it's probably a rotation of Nkemdiche, Gunter, and Pierre. And, I asked specifically Coach Holcomb on Thursday, what did Gunter do to
man up,
earn that spot, and he was having none of it. It was, Nkemdiche's not doing his job, so we found, as MJ said, the next man up. It had nothing to do with what Gunter was doing. It had more to do with what Nkemdiche wasn't doing.
Well said.
That's interesting. We'll get over to Instagram now. We've talked about and Nkemdiche's first-round pick. Other first-round picks have been mentioned in the news recently as potential Cardinals trading them away. But do you see the Cardinals trading for any players?
I'm sure they would listen. It's always tough, unless it's someone that, and MJ, correct me if I'm wrong, that would have like a contract that would be more than just this year and maybe even more than just next season as well. Otherwise, at that point, what would you have to give up?
Yeah, let's fast forward to Tuesday, 1 o'clock local time, and that's when the trade deadline's over. The NFL extended it from Week 6 to Week 8. Dayon Buchanan, when we get to next week, he'll be owed $4.5 million. I don't see anybody coming after him. You'd get a late-round pick. Hassan Reddick, it feels like the staff would like to keep him as part of their future. We know that Patrick Peterson, David Johnson aren't available. If there's one guy, and a guy got hurt last night, Will Fuller for the Houston Texans, who's a speed guy, big physical receiver, and they got DeAndre Hopkins. I think J.J. Nelson could be had for the right draft pick. Now, you're talking a late pick now. He was scheduled to make 1.9 this year. We get to the halfway point, about $850,000. So if you feel like you need a guy to take the top off the defense, if he catches the football, I think that could be an option for a late-round pick. Now, the Cardinals do have 3 compensatory picks in 2019, all in the 7th round. If they lose Buck in free agency, which I think he'll approach, they could get a comp pick in 2020, likely a 7th-round pick.
By the way, speaking of the Texans, Bryce Butler working out for the Texans here today.
I know you talked about the trade.
2 guys that drop balls.
Trade deadline pushed back. We've seen more big-name trades in recent years. Would you attribute it to that?
Yes, and I think it's also because we got young GMs. And these guys all were on the road together as scouts. And so now they can pick up the phone. There's a relationship there. But it's got to make sense for both teams. I think because of the salary cap and expiring contracts, it's very intriguing for these teams to make trades. And I'm glad they moved it back because it allows you to – we're seeing buyers and sellers now. And it looks like between the Raiders and the Giants, and I don't like to use this word in football, tanking, okay, because the Giants unloaded a defensive tackle. They unloaded a corner. The Raiders traded Mack. They traded Cooper. So I think those guys are looking for a high draft pick. The Raiders have 3 first-round picks. But I think because the GMs all were scouts and now they've been promoted, that's why you see more trades. Plus, it's salary cap friendly if it's an expiring contract.
Another player that was mentioned earlier has not obviously been brought up in trade rumors this season, Mr. Fitzgerald. How do you think he will do under the new offensive coordinator?
Well, MJ's already on the record saying he's going to get over 135 yards receiving on Sunday.
I'm taking the over. He said he's going to try for 200, so we'll see.
I mean, at this point, considering no one individually on this offense has done anything, statistically speaking, anything would be an improvement in my eyes.
I just think based on what we hear, what we see, if they can protect and they get David Johnson going, it's going to open things up for Fitz. And I think Ricky Seals-Jones, Christian Kirk, hopefully Chad Williams catches the ball. Sherfield's playing more on teams now. So, yeah, I think he's going to get more targets, which means more touches, means more catches.
See, I think if you're going to go out on a limb and say that, Mike, you should have to wear a helmet or something if he doesn't do it this week. Can we hold him to that?
Sure.
On Monday's show?
Yeah, as long as you get access to a helmet. I don't want you to hurt yourself. Maybe you use
we got to do something.
Maybe you can use it for your Halloween costume next week.
I don't have a Halloween costume. I just come for the candy. Got one last question.
Goes as himself.
Social media director for the Arizona Cardinals. Let me wear the shirt.
I go as Ohms. So last
shave your head.
I gotta shave that. Last question for you here. Unleash the Beast 27. Great Instagram handle here. Score predictions.
Score predictions
for this week, not for the entire league.
I'll go 21-17 Cardinals.
Yeah, I think it's something, maybe a field goal, 24-21. Maybe the rook comes in. Maybe it's Phil Dawson. I'll take Cardinals by a field goal.
All right, fellas.
Thank you, Brandon.
You better talk to Fitz so you're not wearing a helmet in here on Monday.
Fine. Listen, I trust Fitz, so I'm going to go ahead and say 136 or more.
Wow.
That's just a couple big catches.
Calling your shot here on a Friday. I like it. Yeah. All right, we'll see what happens.
And I can be completely wrong, and if they win, nobody cares.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a win on Sunday and we can come back here on a Victory Monday.
You get to hang out with Mike Helm.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's right.
Stat Wizard. We'll see what happens on Monday. Brandon, we certainly
Thank
appreciate
you,
it. The Cardinals manager of social media. Again, get involved in the show using the hashtag CardsCover2. That is CardsCover2. It's also not just a Football Friday, but Friday Night Lights. And the Cardinals this week named their high school coach and player of the week. Congratulations to Apache Junction's Vance Miller and Joseph City running back linebacker Cameron Baldwin. Baldwin, by the way, scored the game-winning touchdown in triple overtime, had 6 touchdowns in a victory over Fort Thomas.
Is ASU recruiting him?
I don't think so. I don't believe he's on the radar.
All right. Well, I know high school football has gotten a lot better here. I'd like to see some of these guys stay here. I understand they watch them and they want to go elsewhere, and I get that, but we got to keep these kids in state.
Maybe the better question is Steve Keim, is Baldwin on his radar?
Well, he's got plenty of time to scout those guys.
Appreciate everyone's involvement here on a Football Friday behind the scenes. Special thanks to Tim Delaney, Jim 100, Devin Henry, Jeremy Schnell, plus Grant Greeley, Jonathan Hayward, Jesse Aranda, and Jackson Sives. For Brandon Natus, Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. That will do it for this Football Friday. And as we leave you, how about we get you hyped for Sunday? Cardinals, 49ers. See if the Cardinals can't make it back-to-back wins over the 49ers here in 2018. Then we'll be back here with you on Cards Cover 2 Monday afternoon.
No receiver in history has been more prolific against the San Francisco 49ers than, guess who? Larry Fitzgerald has haunted his division rival for more than 2,200 yards receiving and 17 touchdowns in his 14 and a half seasons. Larry Legend would like nothing more than to connect early and often with the future of the franchise, Josh Rosen, and add to his body of work against the Niners. But more than anything, he wants to win in front of the Red Sea, for them, for his coach, for his team. 49ers, Cardinals, Game 8 of the 2018 season, Sunday.